Hello YouTubers, today we're talking wipers. The 01 Renault Scenic behind me and the wiper linkages are gone. How do I know the wiper linkages are gone? Well, because I can literally move all the wipers up and down by hand. If there was a problem with the motor, then obviously I wouldn't be able to move it, but because the wiper linkages dropped off the motor, I know that's why I can move the wiper, so I know it's linkages. Now both wipers are moving up and down, so I know it's the one off the motor. If only one wiper is moving up and down, it means it's just the linkage between the two. Now this is a 01 car, so obviously it's not really worth buying a new part. And I know I always talk about buying new parts, but when you live in the real world, obviously, you know, cars that are older, it is pointless. And there's no point getting rid of the car either, because, you know, there's not a lot really wrong with it. So what they've gone and done is they bought a second-hand unit. Now, which is brilliant, but there's just a few things you need to watch out for. If you're going to do this, try and buy the unit complete like this. They've got the motor and everything, because basically, this is the one that's giving us problems. If you try and take that off, or someone takes it off in a scrapyard, potentially they could damage it. And if they damage it, you put it on your car, it's not going to last very long. So if they take it off complete, then there's no damage. And obviously you can actually physically twist these and turn them to see if there is, you know, if they are loose or something. These feel really good. The next thing you want to do is check the spindles, which is here. Now, it is obviously easy once it's in the car, but you can give them a bit of a shake just to make sure they're not loose. And these aren't loose. The one on the car is. So if I bring the camera, see if we can see this now. Here we go. Now, hopefully that's coming through, but that is moving a hell of a lot, which it shouldn't be. You see that? So yeah, obviously there's no problem buying second-hand parts, you just got to be careful. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace all this. Fairly simple. Depending on your car, you might need a bit more stripping, but they can be annoying as such, so it's more stripping than anything else. You can see from obviously this one, there is literally 1, 2, 3 bolts and a clip. Simple really, once you've physically got to it. Now obviously I don't know if this is right yet. I didn't get it, the customer got it. And you can't really tell, unfortunately, until you strip it. Unless you go to the scrapyard with yours in your hand, but then you need another car, you know, it gets very messy. So we've just got to, fingers crossed, hope it's the right one. First thing you really want to do, and this goes with all cars, I can get that in shot, is we need to remove the 2 wipers. There's just little clips, these just lift up, very simple as you can see. They should come off, but it doesn't really matter if they don't. They should just pull off. As you can see, we've got the 2 bolts here, and they look 15, 16 mil. I'm going to take these off first, and what's also good to do is, wipers are normally different lengths, so it's good to leave your wipers. What I like to do is I like to put them on the seats inside the car and leave the passenger one on the passenger side and the driver's one on the side. It just means you can't really get muddled up. Because it's easily happen, and if you do and turn them on, you can smash the window, you can do all sorts. So it's just best to kind of keep them separate as you can. So then we'll whip these off first. 16 mil. Now you have to be careful, because obviously when well, that normally doesn't turn that easy. See if the other one does. What you sometimes have to do is kind of hold the wiper and turn at the same time. So these are quite loose, to be fair. Now, these are on little splines, and they can be quite difficult to take off. Now you have to be careful with lever and stuff, because obviously, you know, you've got your windscreen here and you can damage it. What I find normally the best time is you have to be careful is to hit this with the palm of your hand. And not all the time, granted, but sometimes. Now, these are solid. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to get a hammer and lightly hit them. I'm using a rubber mallet. Like I said, normally the palm of your hand can take these off, but again, you have to be careful, because remember, you are near your windscreen and it's very easy to your windscreen. Now, what might be easier on this particular car is to put the bonnet down. Now, just put the bonnet down and we'll work with them when the bonnet's out of the way. Now, I'm replacing everything, so it doesn't really matter if you damage, obviously, the spindle, even though this one is damaged. But as you can see, it's absolutely solid. Now, I've never had them this tight before. Normally they would have come off by now. Now this one has. You can see that. These are little splines, hopefully it comes across on camera. Yeah, so one's come off. So we can put this on the passenger side. Now to be fair, it's normally the passenger side wiper that is longer, but it's still no harm to do it. This one is obviously proven to be a lot worse. So I'm still trying just to shock it, because all it is just crap over the years built up. You don't really want to use a metal hammer for this because you can start bending the wiper arms and stuff. Well, you can see this one isn't playing ball. Another thing, obviously, which hopefully is coming across on camera, you can just see how much this stub is moving. You can see that. But obviously we need it off, and it's not wanting to come off. Now, what I actually did there was I completely hammered that down. Doesn't matter, it's off, it's fucked anyway. It's now off. That's all that matters. I'm sorry about the light if you can't particularly see very well, but basically, now again, depending on the car, you either have screws or bolts or plastic clips holding this full plastic panel down. We have screws, but we also, they are a torque, but they've got a line all the way through, so it means you can use a screwdriver. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to whip them off, and we can see the gubbins of everything. Now, I'm not able to see that very well, but basically it's a torque with a line all the way through, and that's how I managed to get it off with the flat-bed screwdriver. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take these 5 screws off, and then I'm going to turn the camera back on once I've got the plastic out of the way. Now YouTubers, as we can see, this is the wiper motor and linkage. We've got 1 bolt which is nice and easy to get to, and the other 2 are right underneath here. You can't see them, but this plastic tray between the 2 legs basically bolts off. So we've got couple of 10mm bolts there. This plastic part will come out of the way, and I can get to the bolts in behind there. So we basically, a 10mm bolt there, a 10mm bolt there. So I'm going to whip them off, and then I'll turn, and a 10mm bolt here. So we've got 4. Yeah, got 4. I'll whip them off, and then we'll get to the bottom of it. I do apologise about the light, but the sun and everything, it's just awkward the way everything's happening at the minute, so hopefully you can see everything. But basically we've got a bolt here, and now I've moved that plastic tray, you've got 2 bolts right underneath the actual motor itself. They are only 10mm, they look like. Yeah, 10mm, so I get this one with a spanner, the other 2 I'll have to get with a ratchet. So just a ratchet and extension bar, 2 bolts in underneath. Rip them out, one more. Now that should just push down there. Shouldn't be a new one. Is it threaded? It is threaded. So what we need to do is we need to take off this big nut here. Why it's good to have the new or second hand one right beside it. I'm just going to use adjustable pliers for this because this hopefully shouldn't be too tight. Anyway. No, it's not. Now, that should come through, which it does. And then we just need to take the clip off. It should just slide out. Now, as we can see, this is the old motor wiper mechanism. Now I thought it came off from here, but it came off from the bottom, but it's still the same bar anyway. And they just basically, they're a plastic fitting and on a metal ball, and they just basically wear, that would mostly go back in, I'm not disputing that, but what will happen, it won't be very strong. See, I can pull that off. I shouldn't be able to pull that off that easy. So yeah, second-hand parts sometimes are good. Now, obviously, putting it back is just a reverse of putting it in. But obviously what we need to be careful of now, we want to put the plug in first. Make sure it's the same, obviously, which it is. Now, we need to basically put the 3 bolts back on and test this as soon as we can, just so we know it works and everything's okay. You don't want to put it all back together and then to realise it doesn't work and have to strip it all back out again. So just put the washer on, big nut back on. The 2 bolts on underneath, line them up. Make sure you got all the bolts and everything in line first before you tighten anything, so you know everything's going to fit. Once all the bolts and clips and everything are in that you need, then you can tighten the bolts, because you know you're more or less, well, you are, you're level and everything. Yeah. Just gonna obviously squeeze this home, and then I'm gonna check to see if they work. Now, that's tight. Make sure nothing's in its way. Let's see what happens when I turn it on. Now, as we can see, it's working. Sorted. Yeah. So now we're safe enough to put everything back, because obviously we know it's all good. This basically was the big plastic thing that we took off to get to the bottom bolts. So this needs to be put back in first. Lined up. Now. We'll bolt go back. I'll turn the camera back on once I've got this on. As you can see, that's back on. Now the next thing to do is obviously just put the plastic covers back on. They actually come in two parts. Some do, some don't, just depends on your car. So you need to obviously put these back. It can be a bit tricky, so you just have to kind of watch it, because you don't want to be doing any damage to these fellas. So it's more or less in. Well, this one, there we go. Put this one in last. This one goes in first. So that one's in first. This one then goes over top, overlaps with that one. Tricky just to make sure it's home. Oh, it's getting stuck on behind there. Underneath the windscreen, that's it. Now what I'll do is I'm just going to put all the clips back in, all the screws back in, and then I'll turn the camera back on then. Right, YouTubers, this next bit is kind of important. What you want to do is you want to turn your wipers on and make sure they're definitely down at the first position. So if you turn your wipers halfway off when you was testing, if your wipers are up here and you put them down here, when you turn them on, you can just cause an awful lot of damage. You need to definitely make sure your wipers are down. Then you can basically put your new ones on. And the best thing to do is lever them up like that, get the splines kind of in, then push them down, and as you can see, we need to go further down with that one. So lift it back up, adjust it, check it, do that again, about there. That's too much now, so there. No. Now, we know we're okay there. So I can now tighten this one in. So I'm going to hold it, 16, you have to kind of hold it to stop from going further than what it is. We want to really make sure it's... Quick check to make sure it's not moving. Now, if you're unsure, you can always put your wipers on now to make sure it's okay. So I'm going to do that now. So you can see it's not going too far, so we can see we're all right with that one. Now, the next one's a lot easier because we definitely know that we're down. Same thing, angle it up, put it down, and we're about there, push it home. We know we can tighten that one. Now look, YouTubers, we're done. I know I always say, look, get new parts, but hey, let's live in the real world because it's easy for me to say that. I mean, I don't have the money for new parts either, so, do you know, it's just, obviously on a newer car now, if it was like a 010, 011, something like that, it is kind of best to go new. Two reasons. One, it's kind of hard to find them second-hand, and with a newer car like that, you kind of have to, but the older ones, let's keep them going, eh? So yeah, look, I hope this helps. Thumbs up the video and subscribe, and don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one.